Hello and welcome to the first and hopefully a very long series of retrospective videos on different JRPGs. My name's Eric. Hi, and today we're going to talk about The Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky, first and second chapter. And to join me on this wonderful, wonderful journey, I have the absolutely incredible Felix Wind.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Felix Wind, as has been introduced. Thank you so much, Eric, for having me on. It is an honor. I'm excited to talk about some Trails. I love this series so much.
This went from something I had no idea what it was to probably, at bare minimum, a top 3 JRPG I've ever played. And before we get deep in the reads on this, hit me with your top 3 JRPGs.
Ooh.
Hit me honestly, with that.
Bit of bias on this, not because this is what we're talking about right now, but my journey with the Legend of Heroes series started with Trails of Cold Steel. So I'm putting that one in the list for sure.
Definitely.
And then I have a real soft spot for Dark Cloud 2.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And Star Ocean Till the End of Time.
I never played a Star Ocean game. I heard they're really good. I've owned one for the PlayStation 2, I want to say.
I think it was one of 2 titles. Funnily enough, the one I named might be one of them. That's what it was on.
And I played like an hour of it, and then I got distracted by Kingdom Hearts again.
Understandable. Kingdom Hearts is phenomenal.
Dude, Kingdom Hearts 2 is... Kingdom Hearts 2 is up there.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to say Star Ocean Till the End of Time, Trails of Cold Steel...
Yeah.
And Dark Cloud 2. God, that is sending me.
Yeah.
God. I feel like I'm 12 years old in the living room all over again. That's amazing.
Right. Yeah. No, I've got some deep roots in JRPGs for sure.
I would say my top 3. I'm going to have to probably put like Trails in the Sky, I do kind of consider these definitely, like, I feel like a lot of people consider them to be one game,
right?
So I'll say like first and second chapter. And this is not in a specific orders. I don't know if yours was actual ranked. Like you're I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say Chrono Cross.
Ooh, okay.
Chrono Cross, not Chrono Trigger. Chrono Cross. I've had this discussion a few times with people, and it's like, I don't particularly like Chrono Trigger. It's a good game.
Yeah.
But, like, I played Chrono Cross before I even knew Chrono Trigger was a game. Like, I've never heard of it at the time, but, like, I saw the cover for Chrono Cross in my like Kmart or whatever, wherever you buy video games when you're in the 90s, and I bought that and Donkey Kong 64, and that was a dude. DK64 is a good game. Like Chrono Cross. I loved that game so much I imported the soundtrack CDs from Japan. And I will say that I did this in the year 2002, when that's just not a thing that happened.
Yeah.
The logistics I had to go through, like the hoops I had to go through just to convince some adult in my life, which ended up being my high school physics teacher. I like gave him the cash for that, and then he's like, "Oh, it's going to be like $60 in shipping," and so I gave him the shipping, which was more than the CDs. Yeah, and we had to go through this super sketchy website, which was made in like GeoCities or whatever. But whatever, we got it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I would say Chrono Cross, this game, and probably Skies of Arcadia.
Okay, no, those are amazing picks too. Actually, okay,
yeah.
So if that's not evidence that we probably know what we're about to be talking about here, that would be it.
yeah. Like if I were to do like a top 5, though, one of the Xenoblades would definitely get on there.
Of course.
God, I love Xenoblade 2 so much. It's such a stupid video game, and I love every second of it.
I've got a lot of respect for Xenoblade. I haven't given it a proper chance though, admittedly. Like
That's
I
fair.
hear about how long like the first game is in particular, and I'm just like, ooh, that might be a bit more of an undertaking than I'm willing to put in at this
The
moment in time.
Oh yeah, I mean honestly, I haven't played them myself until this year.
Yeah,
Cuz like I just never I bought them for the Switch like
yeah.
when they came out, and then the definitive edition came out for the first one more recently, and I picked that up, but I never touched them because I'm like, yeah, these are like 80-hour JRPGs. I don't have time for this.
Yeah,
And
yeah, of
then
course.
I streamed them, and that's how I forced myself to play 80-hour JRPGs. It's great.
That makes perfect sense though.
Yeah, it's like literally how I'm playing all these games, and I'm like, oh, I'll never have time to play this.
Yeah, yeah. Just stream
Um,
them.
all right, so Trails in the Sky second chapter is just a stupidly big video game,
Yeah.
which is preceded by the longest prologue of all time, The Legend of Heroes Trails of the Sky first chapter. And that's where I'd like to start our discussion today.
Yes.
How do you feel having played how did you feel when you finished Trails in the Sky first chapter? When the credits hit, what was the first thing that went through your head?
Immediately I said to myself and everybody else who was watching at the time, I
Mm-hmm.
said, we need to start the second game immediately. At
Mm-hmm.
that point, I think I had already been playing for a good maybe 8-ish hours straight
Yep.
that sitting. And I was like, wow, okay. We're not ending like that. There's no way. We need to start the second chapter. I need to know what's going on. Um, all of the reveals right at the end of that, I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting this. I should have. I really should have, because throughout, like, you can see the hints of just what's coming, and like who's,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, really in control of the situation. And even then, we still don't entirely like have that answer. I think even going into and completing second chapter, but
Yeah.
there are definitely some things that are placed that, and you get to see those things, and you're given many opportunities to even kind of suss those things out. But the way it's all done and everything, you can't. I don't know. It's very hard, I think, to settle on those ideas and just be like, okay, well, you know what? Still getting introduced to so and so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's not what I could be thinking, and or you're just blind to it altogether.
Yeah. I was okay. So, oh, by the way, if it wasn't obvious, we're gonna have full spoilers for both games at this
Oh
point.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so at the end of first chapter, when Doctor Alba, like, I every villain like that's not a villain at first has the
Uh-huh.
turn to the camera moment where their
Yeah.
side profile becomes a full front facing profile.
Yeah.
So when he turned to the camera, my immediate reaction was like, I know it.
Yep.
And for the dumbest possible reason. Are you familiar with Xenogears?
A little bit. Yeah.
So in Xenogears, there's a party member named Citan Uzuki, who is like the worst person, like, on the planet. He's just an awful dude, and he's not like he doesn't go full villain because he apologizes and then everyone's cool with it. But he's
Of
like
course.
the worst. And Dr. Alba was a dead ringer for this guy, and so like my immediate like somewhere back in the my monkey brain was like,
Yeah.
it's like, ooh, danger. and and like I was like, all right, cool, we're just gonna. And so I had like super hard suspicions, and the second he did the face turn, I'm like,
There
I
it
was
is.
right.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I
Yeah.
hated it because he in literally like a minute he just destroys Josh
Yeah.
like emotionally
Yeah.
and mentally, and it was heart wrenching.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
I have never, like, it's very rare for me to get very emotionally worked. Okay, that's a straight up lie. I get emotionally worked up over everything. But like I was like almost sobbing at the end of that game. Like
Mhm.
when they did the kiss on the top of the castle, and it ended up being like a sleeping capsule or something. I was like, no, no,
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
How? And like, I really like, I was kind of in that same boat. I'm like, I have to know what's going on.
Literally. Yeah.
I did not jump directly into it, however, but I remember your stream. You're like, I'm jumping right in. You were downloading the game or something.
Yep. Yep. Literally, I installed it. I think just before that stream started, so I could be ready for when I beat it, because I knew no matter what, no matter how long it took, I was beating second chapter then.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, wasn't ready for what was to come.
Dude, no one. Yeah. Even if I knew what was coming up, I wouldn't have been prepared for it. Like,
yeah, right.
The game and first chapter also kind of gave us this taste of the scope, like the sheer audacity of these people to build a video game that they're like, all right, we're gonna start a new continuity. And we're going to be like, all right, we're going to start setting up a plot. And this plot's going to take like 30 games or however many Trails games there are. Yo. And if this one does well, we can make the rest.
Yeah.
But the sheer, just the titanium nerves of steel these people had being like, yeah, we're going to do it. And I can't even imagine what it was like for people who played it like when it came out, and then it's like, all right, let's wait 6 years or 4 years or however many years it was for the second chapter, and like being stuck on that cliffhanger for that long.
Right, Dad. No.
Yeah,
that's pain I don't even want to imagine, to be honest. I could not handle it if I had to wait.
It was like, even just the 1 month. I think the 1 month I took between first and second chapter was actually really good, because it's 2 months in game.
Yes.
Between the two. So like, it was kind of I almost played the game in real time. Because if you think about it, and this is kind of the crazy part, the events of the two games take place over the course of less than 6 months.
Yep.
Like, well, I don't even think, it might only be 4 months. It's actually not long.
Is it not more? Because I could swear.
So
actually, no. Between how long does Estelle train for?
2 months.
Oh, it's 2 months.
It's a 2 month training, because the game literally picks up, like, second chapter picks up literally the day after the first game, and then we have that 2 month little time skip while she's training with Annalise.
Yeah, I thought she was gone a bit longer. Okay.
No, wow. I only remember this very specifically because I was like, oh wow, that's about the amount of time it's been for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the events of the first game take place over the course of 1 month.
Yeah.
Most of which is spent at Genis Academy.
Of course.
Because you gotta have your high school, theater festival arc in the middle of your JRPG. One last thing on first chapter, and I don't know how you felt about this, but the first chapter is basically just side quests the game. Because Cassius Bright is doing the plot of the game.
Literally.
Like he is doing the main plot. Yes. We are not the main characters. We are the perspective characters. And then like stuff is happening, like you have Sherazade like going and off and doing stuff. Like we get to hang out with Zin a little bit, and then the plot accidentally happens to us when we're near other important people.
Exactly. Yep.
But like we are not the driving force in that game, and that's kind of nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, like, that it doesn't happen until later.
Yeah, like the main plot doesn't actually happen anywhere in our vicinity until we get to Gransel.
Yep.
Yeah, like the rest of it is literally just us like doing our training arc, and which is literally fine. Like I obviously enjoyed it, but it's again the audacity of these people. Also, the game starts and ends on a sewer level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, you're right.
Just throwing that out there. Second chapter does too.
Yes.
The tunnels. If you look at the like backgrounds of the tunnels, in Liber Arc, I think is the name of it. Yep. It's sewers.
Yeah, it literally is. Yeah.
So they not only So not only did they have the sheer audacity to be like, all right, we're going to set up a plot this for the next, like, 3 decades of games we make.
Mhm.
But they started and ended these two games, some of my favorite JRPGs I've ever played, on sewer levels. The
Yeah.
actual audacity of these people.
Yeah, they really did do that.
Yeah,
And they were really slick about it too. That never occurred to me.
I know. It's like I didn't think about it until like I was in actually I thought about it while I was in the third tunnel
Okay.
yelling at farming shining palms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like yeah. Actually, this is a great segue into gameplay.
True.
Great segue.
Yeah.
So I didn't even mind that we were doing sewer levels because they actually do really decent level design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
So like the obviously Trails, it's a turn-based grit like tactics
Yeah, I would
combat.
say,
Well, we can
yeah.
call it tactics. Like it has like the turn tracker system, which I'm pointing to, which you can't see right now, but they can see. The turn tracker system's like actually really neat. I've
Yeah.
seen that in like other games, but this is probably like my favorite implementation of it with like random effects like that you can
Yeah.
steal with
Yeah.
like S crafts and stuff like that. How did you feel overall about the combat in these games?
Between both games, I liked it quite a bit. For me, I feel like my some of my perception of it is a little bit different because for me, I took steps back from Cold Steel, which is I believe
Hmm.
the sixth game in the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so to go like to be exposed to some of the changes that come over time,
Hmm.
and then to go back and see where it actually started, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. So some of it was a little bit weird for me, but overall I liked it. It was familiar. And it's cool. It's such a unique idea. I can't think of anything else that I've ever played at least that has done something similar or like that at all outside of this franchise.
The only thing I can think of that's anywhere even close to this, and this is kind of a weird example,
Yeah.
is Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
because
Yeah.
it's the only one that has like that turn tracker with like random effects.
Yeah.
And like the random effects are less like turn by turn, but like more every combat starts with like the rules
Yeah.
that like you have to go into, and like that's always super interesting. That's like the closest example because I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is different
Yeah, it's so
in a
unique
good
and
way.
amazing. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
Now obviously you also have exposure to how the orbiment system
Yes.
evolves in Cold Steel, but this was my first interaction with this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
I it's a very interesting system that can be extremely frustrating
Mhm,
at certain
definitely.
times. I think the orbiment system it feels at the same time it has a lot of creativity, but it also feels very restrictive in certain
Yeah,
ways because of how the lines work and element locked orbiment slots.
yeah,
So like obviously it means, certain people are wanting to do certain roles and the game's trying to
yes,
like push you towards certain roles.
yep,
But then you get to use like Olivier, who has
yep,
all of it on one line, and he can be like some insane caster or a
mhm,
sharpshooter.
yeah,
Estelle's like two lines
yes,
are very nice, but like it's it's weird because space, time, and mirage
mhm,
Sepith are important for a lot of the higher level spells, but most
yeah,
people probably can't even access them
right,
because you need so much of it. And
yes,
even when you're getting gems at the end of second chapter, like a lot of characters just don't have the slots to make
literally.
big spells happen. Like I was using who was your team for the final boss?
Ooh, I had Estelle, Joshua, of course.
Hmm.
I brought in Chloe and Mueller, I believe.
Oh, I never used Mueller. I never.
Yeah, I brought him in.
I got him and Julia, and I'm like, all right, what level are you? Oh, I'm like 10 levels higher than you. I'm not farming you up. I'm
Yeah,
not yelling at more palms.
yeah, very fair, very fair.
Yeah, I brought Chloe and Tita.
Okay, nice.
And Tita was on my squad for the final boss of the last game as well.
Yeah.
Because I love my precious explosion daughter. Um, she's just like I just love cannons.
Yeah,
It just
no,
makes
Tita
me
is
happy.
amazing. One of the best characters,
Hmm.
both like for actual character and for
Game,
capabilities, like
yeah.
ever.
I like Tita was great because I think she had a lot of forks on
Yeah,
her orbment, so like
yeah.
you're not casting with her
Nope,
nine
definitely
times
not.
out of 10. Like I think I used her for like uh clock up
Okay, yeah,
EX
yeah,
um like at the beginning of combats, and then she didn't cast again unless she absolutely had to
of
do like a
course.
speed up.
Yeah,
But yeah, I like Chloe. I had her on. I had her and Estelle on buff duty.
nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then Josh was DPS, and then Tita was kind of like a sub DPS
Yep.
slash support
Yeah.
character because she has the healing and blind. Actually, one thing that's crazy about this game's combat system, I've been terrible in like every JRPG system I've ever played
Mhm.
about interacting with buffs and debuffs.
Same.
And this game taught me how to use them well,
Yeah.
which I like. It basically deprogrammed 30 years of video gaming and taught me how to not suck at them,
Yeah.
which is great. Like
Yeah,
I was
excellent.
using like final boss like also when I saw the final boss had literally like the cap for HP, it's like
Yeah.
99,000. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we're gonna be here for a minute.
Yeah.
um, I I died a little at the inside. I'm like, oh no.
Understandably, because yeah, you were
I was there
well,
for a while.
yeah.
I think did you watch the VOD?
I did go back to some of it.
Yeah, I think I was in that final boss for like 50 minutes, almost an hour.
Yeah. Oh my
And it
god.
didn't help. Like first off, final boss tier 1.
Oh
Like
yeah.
great fight.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely
Absolutely.
amazing. I
Yes.
screwed up. I made a mistake.
Oh no.
I let Josh get eaten. You know his
Oh.
move where his like tail comes up and like it has the arts on the thing and then the like
Yeah.
the rings around it, and it's like, oh, that looks
Yes.
super dangerous. I was like,
Yeah.
whatever. I have Earth Guard on him. What could happen? And
Oh.
then he just gets nommed. I'm like, oh, I understand.
Right.
That's
Death.
an issue. I mean, we kept going. It just Tina had to step up.
Yeah, that's all it was. Oh wow.
I was really mad that so many bosses. The one thing did dislike was I basically had to guess whether a boss was immune to certain debuffs,
Right.
even with the
Yeah.
information setteth
Yeah.
up. Like that
Yeah.
was the thing that really sucked because I had that thing on because they give you Heaven's Eye
Yes.
like really early.
They do. Yes.
It might be like it might be like one of the things they give you for linking your save data. And
Oh.
I actually think it
Um.
might be.
Maybe. I feel like
It's
regardless.
really it was really early,
Yeah. No.
and I
You
had that
definitely get it early
on
enough.
the whole time,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was super helpful
Of
actually,
course.
because I'm like, man, I wonder if this thing explodes, and it tells you. Amazing.
Imagine that, right?
Imagine. So like that was the other thing. Like I've never used the like, oh, what does this monster do? Like if it's like
Yeah.
attached to a spell or whatever. I'm like, I've never used that before, and this time I'm like, okay, I now know what it does. Like this game just made me use information and buffs in a way I've never done before, and I think that's amazing.
I unfortunately am a little bit more like a bull when it comes to well, still I guess when it comes to JRPGs
Mhm.
because I'll like run in and attack things, and I'll learn from the experience. Like, oh, this one blows up, or oh, this one can cast something that has this particular effect, or
Hmm.
whatever else. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I very much I just run in. I'm just like, let's see what happens, and then I learn, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me try and dial
See,
it back.
I have exactly no short-term memory when it comes to
Yeah,
this. So
yeah,
I had to relearn several lessons because I'm kind of the same way. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go in, gonna do stuff, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to die now.
yeah.
Actually, I think I only actually lost like one fight in all of second chapter,
Nice.
which two fights because Gilbert absolutely rocked
Oh,
me in
yeah.
on the boat,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
rude as hell, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, Gilbert is
Um,
such a character.
dude, I we'll get to Gilbert.
Oh yeah.
We'll get to Gilbert.
Oh, we will.
Yeah. But yeah, like I think the gameplay overall like was like trying to like put a bow on this section.
Hmm.
But like I think like the combat was really fun.
Yes.
I played it on normal. I know you played the second chapter on
On
easy.
easy. Yeah.
And I didn't feel I felt like it was challenging but not overly difficult.
That's good.
Um and yeah, and that's kind of where I want to be. Like I don't want to be frustrated by a fight.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing these, I don't know about you, but like I play most JRPGs for the story.
Yes.
And the combat in this game is interesting enough that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try the third on hard or maybe even nightmare if I hate
Yeah.
myself.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Dude, that'll be something if you go through with that.
it's a
That'll be
shorter game from what I'm
yes.
understanding. So like
Yes.
I feel as though it's probably if I'm gonna do one of them on Nightmare,
It would
that's
be
the
on.
one.
Yeah, I can make sense of that too, actually.
Hmm.
Because I'm right now, yeah, as of this
Yeah, you're
recording, I'm coming up
playing.
at the end
Hmm.
of the third right myself. I think I'm literally going into the final chapter. Um, and to play it on Nightmare or hard, I think I agree with what you're saying. This would
Hmm.
probably be the game to do exactly that and
Yeah.
bring all of your knowledge from the first two games and try and exercise them into third. You would get
Yeah.
rewarded greatly for doing so, I think.
Yeah, because I feel like if I try to do that on like Cold Steel or Zero,
Hmm.
which isn't out
Yeah.
in the US yet, but I'll definitely be playing when it comes out. I feel like the systems change
Yes.
between this set and them, and I'm like,
Yes.
I feel like I understand the system. I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing at this point, and
Yep.
now I want to take my final test on it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's kind of where
100%.
I'm coming from
That's
that
perfect.
perspective.
Yeah.
Actually, there is one last bit I wanted to talk about with gameplay,
Yeah.
and that is items
Ooh.
and
Okay. Yeah.
items and equipment.
Yes.
So in first chapter, items and equipment were actually pretty straightforward. Almost
Yep.
every time you got something new, it was a straight upgrade.
Yes.
You never had like too many options, and I was a big fan of that.
Yep.
And items were also pretty straightforward. You know, you
Yeah.
had like standard package of healing items.
Yeah.
Food was cool.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of the cooking system.
Yep.
Um, and I liked that there was like sit down meals that did the whole party, and like
Yes.
you could have some weird kind of esoteric buffs in those.
Yes.
And then you had like some food which was like obviously better than any healing items that you could obtain.
Yeah.
I found it a little frustrating that a lot of it was limited by monster drops because the
Agreed.
game we didn't even talk about leveling, did we?
No.
All right, we can talk about that now.
Yeah.
So the game doesn't really encourage farming that
Right.
much because of
Yep.
how it scales experience to level.
Exactly. Yes.
So like if you grind too much, you're going to start getting like +1 exp, and like
Yep.
it's not going to like levels are king for stat increases, but raw stats don't do a lot for bosses. It's all tactics.
Exactly.
Like you need to have like there's a floor, but the floor for boss encounters is pretty low.
Exactly.
And then whatever like major encounters you run across usually rubber band you up to where you're supposed to be. So like the game doesn't encourage farming the regular monsters except for recipes.
Exactly that. That is the perfect way to say that, actually. Yeah.
The obvious exception to that is shining palms.
Yes.
God. How much farming of shining palms did you do, if any?
I did do some. And it was in the second chapter, maybe by the third or fourth chapter, I want to say. Like I had realized, like, oh, like, because I'd seen them before, but like for the life of me, even in first chapter, whenever I came across them, I could not hit them. So I was just like, I'm gonna leave these things alone. Like they move too quick for me at this time. Like I can't even pretend to try and get a hit on them. And somebody I think guided me towards like using an S-craft on them, and I think at that time still somehow I like missed or something, and I was like, okay, that wasn't the answer either. I'm gonna have to like come back to this later and try and figure it out. So I was part ways through second chapter when I finally was able to hit one, and when I learned like just how much experience you got from one of those things, I was like, oh, we're gonna be here for a minute.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
I like killed one in most of the chapters of the first chapter, like in most of the parts of first chapter, because like, oh, there's an achievement for it, might as well try. And they're like, I think like the generally accepted way of trying to do them is use instant death proc, so like Shadow Spear or Hell Scream. But like I just Shadow Speared because I didn't have access to Hell Scream, because you know, like that required me to understand the orbment system, which I didn't understand until halfway through second chapter.
Of course.
And so I'm like, all right, I killed one, and I'm like, ooh, yay, Sepith and stuff. But when you got to Zeiss in chapter 2, and Tita was like 10 levels underneath where I was, someone in my chat was like, hey, this is go to the tower and then beat up some shining palms. And I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. And then that put Tita, like we figured out how to put Hell Scream on Chloe, and so that was her job for the rest of the game. that like Chloe's job was to have the literal devil yell out of the floor at shining palms for the rest of the game. And I was obsessed. Yeah. And so, like, I got Tita, like, and the whole party up to, like, level 55 in, like, chapter 2.
No way.
Dude, I was going insane. I was, like, literally going insane. Oh,
my God.
And I spent the rest of the game comically overleveled for everything I was doing. Because every time I went to a new area, like I'd go to the tower, and on floor 5 of the tower, there's the shining palm encounter, and I'm like, woohoo!
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then I would just have Chloe yell at shining palms. And I actually, and then actually in the area right before the access tower, is the one squid with shining palms, and I brought Shara and Zin because I wanted to bring them along for their boss encounters.
Of course.
And I was like, all right, we're going to scream shining palms until they're like level 89 or whatever. Actually, what level did you end the game at?
I believe it was just over, oh my gosh, just over 80, I want to say.
Oh, dude, I was like level 93.
Oh my God! Yeah, no, I was just over 80.
That's hilarious. No, I was comically overleveled all game. Yeah. It was amazing. I yelled at shining palms for like
hours.
Like literally, there's probably literally 2 hours of footage of me yelling at shining palms for no reason.
Wild. Oh
Dude, I
my
need my
god.
Sepith. I need my Sepith. I
Fair.
need my EXP. My
Fair.
precious explosion daughter needs levels so she doesn't die. It's so funny too, because
Oh
like
my
my whole
god.
party had like 10,000 HP plus,
Yeah.
and then Tina's sitting at like 6,700.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just it's just hilarious. Yes, I understand she's 12, but still.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but oh yeah. The whole reason we started talking about Shining Palms was armor.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so the armor in second chapter is a lot more complicated, and
Yes.
I kind of
100%.
hate that.
Agreed.
Because that made me think. And when I get armor, I want it to be cool and new
Yep.
and just give me big buffs on all my numbers.
That's it.
And please make me stop having to specialize. It drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I agree with that too.
Yeah, but also the other item thing that how much of the attack food did you use?
Very minimal. I would almost say basically none of it, to be
Oh my
honest.
god.
Yeah.
Like midway through the game, that was like my primary actually in the prologue, that's how I had to beat Kurt.
Oh, really?
Because I, an idiot, didn't realize that my weapons were in the forest. I thought we only had the practice weapons.
Oh my god. No way you did that.
Oh, I died. I died like 3 times, and then
Yeah.
chat was finally like, hey, your weapons are back in the forest. I'm like, that's impossible. I checked the whole forest. But like the weapons, if you remember correctly, there's like a area with a chest with, I think, like your shoes or something. And then there's like a little tiny little side area with both weapons.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no way, because I'm like, it has to be on practice weapons. Why would we, like, how have I missed 2 chests in this area?
Yeah.
And then someone had to give me a map, because like I don't have good eyesight, like obviously. Yeah. And so I even looking straight at the path that takes me to those chests, I barely saw it. I hate it.
Wow.
And so yeah, I bashed my head against Kurt for like, God, like 3 hours.
No way. Yeah.
It was like I think it's literally a whole YouTube video. I think it's literally like a whole YouTube video.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the playlist that this video is on. So you could totally just go up there, and we'll plug all your stuff as well.
Hey, no worries.
Yeah. But it's easier. I can make a card. Got to use those YouTube features. Editor Eric's gonna forget this.
Oh, 100%. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I loved attack food. Attack food was just stupid. It's like you could kill shining palms with them.
True.
Fun fact, because it guarantees to hit.
Yep.
That's the nice thing about them. Like the little fog idiots that Lucy summoned.
Oh my god, I hated those things.
Attack food, my friend.
That would have been a good place to use them. I did not. I was
there's
casting arts or using crafts.
The only reason I even started using them was A, the Kurt fight, but then B, I'm like, oh, there's an achievement for killing stuff with them. And I love achievements.
Yeah,
I'm a 3-head. I love achievements. I see a little thing pop up in the corner. I'm like, woohoo! I love that phrase. It's such a good phrase.
I remember seeing you use attack food towards the end of the game.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I used it in the tower.
Yeah,
because there's one that applies status effects.
Yep.
And I'm like, maybe I could proc mute on Ren.
Yeah. And it was like, nope.
No. She resisted. I hate that mute is basically useless.
Agreed.
It's like every time I'm like, okay, I don't have an impede, but I have a mute.
Yeah.
But even if like I have the time to mute them, like anti-sept just doesn't do anything.
Literally, yeah.
Like everyone who you care about casting on it is immune.
Yeah, literally. I remember somebody had told me to cast anti-sept on LeVay in first chapter during that fight in the castle when you're getting or saving the queen.
Yeah.
And I was like, Yeah, really? And I tried a good, I want to say like 10
They did the
times.
oh yeah, the fight that like you can win or lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that fight.
No. Yes. My chat told me the exact same thing, and I
Yeah.
tried it once, and then he resisted, and then
Yep.
I did like my full screen webcam. I just kind of stared at him. I'm like, I don't
Right.
know. Like I don't know why you tell me these things, chat.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
like, no, it'll
I gave
totally
up.
work. I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
it won't.
No way. No way.
I see a resist, I assume it's immune to it. Like I'm
Right.
not
Exactly.
like it's like no, it's only like a 50% resist. I'm like I have a
Yeah.
10% hit
Yeah.
rate.
Chance of it working. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like so you're telling me I have to roll a d20 and crit. All right, cool.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, let me grind that out, or I could just shoot him with a cannon.
Right. 100%. Oh,
Just throwing that out there.
God.
I did
Did
like
you?
I did two shots at it,
Mm.
and I did not beat him. I
Okay.
know you beat him like the first time, and then
I
your game
did.
crashed or
And then my
something.
game crashed.
Oh, you
Yep.
like tabbed
I
out.
I
I
tapped
remember
out.
that stream specifically because I was
Yep.
there.
Oh, I
That
was
was my
so
first
upset.
stream. That was
Yeah,
the first
actually,
time
that was the
yeah,
first time.
that was
Yeah.
when I first met you.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, oh, dude, he's on Lawrence right now. I remember because I was raiding in. I'm like, yo, he's fighting Lawrence. Let's go check it out.
Yep.
And you were so mad.
Yeah.
I'm
And then
sorry.
like
I'm
I
not
did
laughing.
that first try, it was so like not seamless, but like I made it look so easy. And then my game crashed and all
I
of the
remember,
difficulty
dude.
piled on and I
Yeah,
was there for like 3 hours.
dude. Yeah, you got so lucky with like his RNG. I remember
Yeah.
going back and watching it later. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
realized I got super lucky with the final boss in second chapter, like his
yeah.
first phase when he's just turns into the big goopy
Yeah.
dude before he gets all one winged angel with his 20 wings or whatever.
You're right.
Yeah, and he did not use like three moves that like do status effects. He just didn't do them,
What?
and I was just like, all right, cool. Because
Yeah, you did not do that.
he has like a move that like does a bunch of status stuff,
Yep.
and like half of my team had Grail lockets at that point anyway, so I'm
Oh,
like
that's fair.
probably immune to it,
Yeah.
but like he just didn't do it.
Yeah, you definitely got lucky with that. I remember
Yeah.
getting plagued by some of it. Not I don't think I got hit with everything that he had in his arsenal
hmm
either.
Yeah.
Um,
He
but
definitely
yeah.
felt like he was just kind of vibing for like 90% of the fight,
Yeah,
and I'm like not upset about that.
of course.
I'm
No,
not
heck
mad
no.
about
No
it.
complaints. No
Yeah,
complaints at
no,
all.
there's no one's mad here. Um, yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about the gameplay wise before we move on to the next section?
No, actually, no. I think we're good.
All right, all right. So next section, I wanted to talk about was the story.
Yes.
And we're gonna kind
Oh,
of combine like story and like characters. We're like again
like,
we can go into deep dives on individual characters during the tier list, but
yep.
this story for this game's kind of incredible, both I
Yeah.
think in scope and like emotional like weight.
Yes.
Like there were multiple parts in both games where like I was like welling up and like I straight up cried at several parts. Like
That's
I'm not afraid to admit that.
yeah, no, absolutely. I would
Yeah.
too.
Like I think Josh and Estelle's relationship, like cuz you see it, like that's the thing I really like. This game shows it doesn't tell.
Yes.
Except when it comes to Cassius Bright. But we can get to that.
We'll talk about
We'll talk.
Cassius.
Oh, I have words about that man.
Oh yeah.
But the
Oh
game
yeah.
is very, very good about showing and not telling. In fact, the game's almost a little too happy to not tell you anything, because half the time we'll have a character who's like, they'll know the plot, they know what's happening, and they're like,
Yes.
and someone will be like, what? And we're like, don't worry about it.
Yep.
And they do that so much, and it drives me a little crazy,
Yeah.
but then it's fine because then the thing they were thinking about happens,
Yes.
and even if we knew, it wouldn't have mattered. But like
Right.
it's the game's the scope of this game story is just really big,
Yes.
obviously. And I think we talked about it earlier, where they're basically setting up an entire like series of like 10, 20 games. I have no idea how many are in
I think as of right now, the entire franchise has 10 or 11 games.
That's a lot of games. And I know they're not even done.
Nope. They're still going. I saw something like my phone told me earlier that the I guess the creator of the franchise is like said that they're about 70% done with.
I feel like I've heard that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, like 70% done, I believe is what he said. And I was like, oh, well, dang. And obviously that probably includes the game that's still in development now. So there's a lot more to go for sure.
Yeah, I will say the more I've been playing this game, the more like I've been getting just random ads for articles about the series. Like my phone is like, hey, you like this series? Why don't you read this article that's entirely in Japanese about it? I'm like,
oh yeah,
I'd love to, I guess. I'm not busy. But yeah, like it's like, so the very beginning of the game, the very beginning of the very first game, we have Estelle and Josh. They're about to take their bracer exam. Josh sitting on the balcony playing his harmonica. And we'll get to music. We'll get to music.
Oh yeah.
And it goes from they're going to go into the sewers to, you know, go get a doohickey or whatever the MacGuffin was in the sewers. Yep. I think it was literally their bracer paperwork.
Yep, that it was.
It was literally their paperwork. I remember that now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool, that envelope. Open the envelope you got. Oh, it's your certificates, your bracers. Woo! Yep. But like, it goes from like that, and they're like, oh, we're gonna travel the country and do side quests. Oh, and then we get like that. No. Because even that's not the very first thing that happens. Because this is actually like really, really important. The first thing that happens is we get the scene where Cassius brings Josh home in the rain.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's actually the first scene.
What a setup.
Dude.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It also gives me one of the more annoying red herrings, which made me a little sad, because Estelle like bonks Josh upside the head, or bonks her dad upside the head like twice in that scene. And so I assumed this was going to be a recurring gag. And I set up like a little bonk counter, which only got to 5 over the whole 150-hour experience.
Yeah, true.
Which made me a little annoyed. But all of it happened in like the first hour of the game.
Yeah.
But hold on, because that shows that Estelle grows as a person.
Hey, there we go.
It all comes together. But like, yeah, the character's experience, like just in these like short, like 4 months or so, a lot of growth, and we see that happen. It all happens on screen, which is great. Like, all of Estelle and Josh's relationship happens on screen. We see it happen. From, you know, Tio at the farm being like, hey, Estelle, maybe Josh is kind of cute, and then that's like the first time she's like, he is kind of cute. And then all the way to the end where they're visiting Karen's grave, and then they're gonna go off holding hands, having an adventure. Like, that whole journey happens on camera, and that's great. And like, not only the main characters get good character development, side characters, and this is one that I wanted to talk about because it's hilarious. At the first game, when you're first enrolling, and the dude who runs the general store, he mentions offhandedly that his mom is trying to find him a wife.
Yeah.
And that's like all that happens in first chapter. I see the light bulb clicking for you.
Yeah,
then she you see her in Gransel during the Queen's celebration at the end of first chapter. I lied. That's just it takes like a 60-hour break, and then you see Bloom in Gransel, his mom. I don't remember his name because he was the shopkeeper in Roland. Who knows?
Of course. Yeah.
So second chapter, you open up again in Roland or in Gransel. And you see her, and then you also see, like some random woman who's like, I'm gonna open up my own shop, and she's like talking with her friends or whatever. Yep. And then when you get on the airship, because Bloom's been following you around, basically. Same with what is his name? Anton?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Anton, and he's having his own adventure, and there's like what's his name? The dude who keeps coming up with stupid business ideas that we keep helping with side quests. Orvid? Orvid.
Yes. Orvid is that's his name.
Like wow. But so Bloom's going around, and then but after Gransel, Bloom and that lady who's like, I want to open up my own shop, they meet on the ship.
Yes.
And then that you're heading to Roland, or no, you're heading to Bose, but you had to stop in Roland because of the fog. Yes. And so they get stranded there, and Bloom convinces her to help out in the shop, and they I think they end up dating.
Yeah.
By the end of the game.
And that is amazing.
And that's a side character. We have like a whole rom-com.
Yeah.
With completely missable named characters.
I definitely missed most of that. Like I definitely remember talking to the characters. I remember those some of those lines.
Yeah.
But when it finally does connect, when they finally do meet, I completely missed that.
I only noticed because I remembered running into I wish I could remember the girl's name at this point, but like I remember she was in front of the coffee shop talk with her like two friends, and then like they're talking about, she's like, oh, I'm gonna make my own shop at some time, and then her friends are like, you just need to find yourself a man, or however it is they talk, I don't know. And then she goes, and she's in Roland now. That's just great.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And really cool.
Yeah, like, but that's something that I really appreciate about this game is the side characters get more development than a lot of main characters. Like,
actually.
All right, again, Chrono Cross, one of my favorite JRPGs I've ever played. Mm-hmm. Surge gets 0 character development the whole game. Because he's a silent protagonist, self-insert character, so he's not allowed to have any of that, and that's kind of why I hate Chrono Trigger, because it also kind of pulls that a little bit, but I also just didn't care about the rest of the characters.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Like, Princess Cher is like, I'm like, all right, cool, you're the feisty princess character.
You're the frog.
You're the frog. Yeah, you're the frog. You're the robot. What does it mean to be alive? Like,
literally.
Like, okay, like, I get it. Chrono Trigger did a lot of these things before a lot of other people did, but like, I didn't play it until I was like 28.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I've seen all these before. Maybe if I played this when I was, like 6 or something, it would have had more impact.
Right.
But I was busy playing Pokemon, probably.
Hey.
Dude, is Pokemon a JRPG?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We can still be friends. We can continue this video.
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. If anybody says otherwise,
they're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely wrong. There's no way.
They're wrong.
It is absolutely like, I guess bottom of the barrel for what might be considered to be a JRPG, but it is still like it entry into,
Yeah, like it has all the trappings of JRPG. It's got leveling, it's got grinding, it's got items, it's got towns, it's got story, it's got all the bits. Like, but the only difference is you're not playing a member of the party.
exactly.
You're not the part. You're the like the party manager.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, yeah. You decide who goes on the adventure. Yeah.
Pokemon is the football manager sim of JRPGs.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That is the perfect analogy though.
But yeah, so like the problem, like having that much character development on side characters is just great. And I guess looking at the plot as well, like we've said this a couple times, the scope of this plot is huge.
Yeah.
Like it obviously extends beyond the borders of the game we're playing. When I guess when did you kind of understand what was the scope of what we were dealing with? Like when did that kind of click with you?
That is a good question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. Like I'm running like first chapter like through my head again, and I'm just like, I wonder. But honestly, I do feel like it was pretty early on. Like I almost want to say as soon as Estelle and Joshua receive the first gospel, and they get that package that was meant for Cassius and everything, and they're like, hey, let's hold on to this until we see him again. I was like, okay. I don't like, because I remember the note or the letter that he got. I believe it ended up being revealed later on that it was from Olivier, right? Or Oliver. I think it was meant for him.
It?
I think so, because I remember at the end of whichever chapter it was that we first meet him, and they finally do split ways or whatever. Shara catches him on the phone on an airship, and I think the conversation he was having with I forget who it was he was speaking with was actually about Cassius. I think so. Like I think somehow, some way, like Oliver had gotten a hold of the gospel or something, and he sent it to Cassius for XYZ reason. I believe that's how that goes.
It
feels wrong.
Corrected. Yeah, it feels correct enough. Like right. I think,
it was something. It was because I know for sure we know who ends up sending him that package, but of course, it ends up in their hands, and so. It just, with how cryptic the note was, and the fact that obviously now they were walking around with this ominous object, I was like, okay, there is something huge going on here, and I was made aware fairly early on as well that oh my gosh, that Liberl was a fairly small part of this giant piece of land that they're on.
Liberl. Oh yeah. I have pronounced it for the entire time I've been playing the game liberal, just because then, we get the liberal news, and I just make a big joke out of it. No, liberal's probably a lot more correct pronunciation.
That makes sense though. Yeah.
But but every time we'd get a new issue of the news, I'm like, finally, it's the liberal news.
I like that. I like that a lot more, honestly.
It's just, it made me giggle. It made me giggle, and I'm 6. It's fine. But yeah, like, I think for me, actually, it was probably a very similar area. It was when Olivier was on his cell phone.
Yeah.
And then Shara, like, I was like, okay, cool, they have cell phones. But then Shara's like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, what is that, actually? Because then, like, it kind of clicked to me. I'm like, wait a minute. There's, like, phones are, like, not a super common thing. Like... Like every town has like maybe like 3.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting here on a smartphone.
Right.
Like, casually. And I'm like, and then that's a party member.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's from Erebonia, or however you pronounce that town. Like there's a lot of these words that I've just never said out loud, which we'll get to a different thing in a few seconds, but like that was probably about it. But then it also hit me a second time in second chapter, and that kind of like cemented like, oh my god, what are we doing? When they had the showdown outside of Hacken Gate.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they drop a bunch of proper nouns. It is
Yep.
like literally what, chapter 8, we're going into the finale, and they drop a bunch of proper nouns, a bunch of
Yep.
characters we've never heard of,
Yep.
and we're just like, yeah, and they're just gonna shove that off. That's a cold steel problem.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a
No.
later, that's a cold steel problem. Just deal with it then.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my god, I'm like taking notes. Um, Now, this is actually a pretty big difference between our playthroughs of the game.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
you read everything out loud,
True. Yes.
and I did not do that.
Yes.
How do you think that affected your playthrough, or like your
Um.
experience?
I guess even though like I feel like at times anyway, my voice could have been a little like monotonous while I was reading dialogue out loud.
Hmm.
As I was reading each line, like I was sort of getting maybe a little bit more of a feel for like some of the emotion or the tone like said by so many characters. When evil person was being sinister, like I was like, oh okay, yeah, no, I can definitely like hear and feel the venom dripping off of this text right now. Or
Yeah,
like if somebody was sad, like there'd be that too, or and everything else. But I think that might be the biggest thing as far as like the differences go.
hmm,
Maybe slightly more of a connection for varying sides, depending on and giving everybody some sort of voice.
yeah.
Well,
That's
yeah,
fair. I
yeah,
think it's actually really funny because I actually did read one part of the game out loud in its entirety.
yeah.
The Dull Knight. I read through that whole
Oh,
book out
yeah.
loud because I'm like, how long could this be? It's 24 chapters. It's very
Yeah,
long.
I
And it
just
took
read
me an
through it
hour and a
myself.
half. It took me like
Yeah,
an hour and a half. Well,
yeah,
I like stopped everything. I'm
yeah.
like, oh, let's read, because I
Story time.
remembered specifically, because you have to read part of it to get
Yeah.
the clue for one of the side quests, for Blue Blanc,
Oh,
one of Blue Blanc's riddles.
oh my
Um,
God! It probably is the one I missed because there was, I think, one of those that I missed,
Yep,
and that was
that
probably it.
probably. And I was like, oh, this is obviously what the clue. It's like, because the clue was like the Blue Knight or whatever. And then
Yeah,
I remembered at the beginning of the game when Kevin was he was reading it to the kids. He said the
yeah.
Blue Knight, the Blue Dull Knight, specifically.
Oh,
Because he was reading, like, because he basically reads the last chapter of it to the kids,
yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, neuron activate!" And
yeah,
I was like, I was like, "Okay, we could read this out loud," and then I got real invested.
yeah, yeah. No, that
And
that was a
the
crazy
Dull
story.
Knight is hyper plot relevant.
Yep.
It's hyper plot relevant specifically to Ren.
Yeah,
Which I did not realize that was going to be a thing, but I'm really glad that I did that.
yeah, yeah. No, that is so cool. I'm mad during my playthrough of second chapter. I only kept up with liberal news, I believe.
Hmm.
Um, and it wasn't until third chapter. In third chapter, you get an opportunity to read through every book that you missed, and even the news comes back as
Ooh,
well. Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So I got to catch up on the Dull Knight. I got to catch up
Hmm.
on Gambler Jack and Carnelia.
I did not
Um,
read Carnelia, but Carnelia in its
oh,
entirety is in second chapter as well.
yes.
But I was
I
like, yeah, I looked at the first chapter. It was 10 pages, and the text was real small. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nope.
Oh,
Later, we are
yeah.
tabling this.
Yeah, yeah, understandably so. I remember starting Carnelia because I think in the order I think I listed them off in reverse, but
Hmm.
you get them in third chapter in the order of Carnelia, Gambler Jack, and then the Dull Knight. And
Hmm.
so I read Carnelia first, and I was like, oh okay, like it's like 7 pages per chapter, like this can't be that bad. But then I'm there reading out loud, and so that took me that
Yeah, it's
hour
probably like
and
an
a
hour,
half.
hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh snap, okay. I am terribly sorry, but I mean, we needed to read that.
Hmm.
Um, Carnelia is wow in so many ways, just relevant.
I need to read it. I actually did not read it. My plan, I actually put a save next to the thing because my plan was eventually to sit down and either read it, or I was going to do a dramatic reading and grab a couple friends and like do, because I have a couple friends that are VAs, and I'm like, why not just like do a dramatic reading with voice actors and stuff? What? Sure.
Yeah, no.
Like, I think the Dull Knight would be really good for that as well, because it's a lot of dialogue.
Yes.
And not a lot of narration.
100%.
Yeah. So that's something that I have said I'll make and then probably never will. It'll just be added to the giant pile of half-finished video ideas and video essays.
Yeah.
Coming soon, that Learn to Play video that I have like 3 parts of finished that will never get done. Just never. I refuse to finish it. But yeah, like, and that's the other thing about the side stories and like stuff like that. Like, the Dull Knight is plot relevant. Carnelia is plot relevant. Like, there's no wasted space in this narrative, and that's like, and even like little character interactions, like, it's all meaningful. Yeah. The one thing that does drive me a little crazy is everyone knows Cassius Bright.
Oh my god.
And every single time, Estelle is surprised.
Yeah, that also had me too.
Estelle's like, you know my dad? Yeah. It's like, yes, Estelle, everyone knows your dad. The dragon knows your dad. Everyone knows your dad. That really got me. Like, some of the last words out of George Wise Guy's mouth at the end of the frickin' game is, damn you, Cassius Bright. Like, what did he do?
Yeah.
Like, out of nowhere.
Oh.
Like, some of the last coherent sentences we get out of Georg Weisman is, damn you, Cassius. I'm like, he's not even here. Is he here? I'm like, is he? I'm like looking around. I'm like, is he like... It's
just a matter of time. He's about to show up.
Dude, he kill-stealed the final boss in first chapter, and I'm never going to forgive him.
Me neither. I was like, where were you this whole time? Where were you?
He's like, oh, I was in like a different country, like doing... And we learned that that's all Campanella, like, was like, Campanella's like, oh yeah, I sent him off on a wild goose chase or something. I'm like, oh, and that put him on my list.
Yeah, Campanella.
No, there's 2 characters. There's 2 characters in this game that I absolutely despise. Georg Weissman. And Kurt.
Oh, you hate Kurt too,
dude.
Let's go.
Yes,
thank you. I was getting ready because I was like, oh man, if I rip on Kurt, he might hate me.
No, I can't stand
Kurt,
dude. No, screw that guy.
Oh my god. I was like, Grant literally has less screen time than you, and does pretty much nothing. And he like, Kurt is still worse.
I know nothing about Kurt, or no, I know nothing about Grant. I know nothing about Grant, and he's better than Kurt.
Yeah, oh my.
No, you know what cemented it. You wouldn't know what cemented it. So first off, I hated Kurt. Like, first game Kurt, it's like whatever. He's inoffensive, but like he's there. Second game Kurt, he starts off with that whole trading thing, and then like he was the worst boss fight in the whole game, and I hated him. And I was like, all right, I'm mad at Kurt. And then he gets to be a party member, and then I'm like, okay. Maybe this will be Kurt's redemption arc. He's like, yeah, I can use arts without the, zero field generator. I'm like, sweet. You're my new caster for until I get Chloe back.
Yeah.
That was a lie. He cannot, in fact, use arts without a zero field generator. He just lied to me.
Oh my
And so, so I took all of his gear off.
And
I didn't do anything with him. He just sat in the party and tanked periodically.
God.
I'm like, eat damage.
Yeah.
Die, please.
I'm impressed you use him at all, to be honest, because
you have to. You literally are forced to.
No, you do.
For the Genis
the Royal Academy
siege. Yeah, for the Royal Academy siege.
Yeah.
Which that was a cool sequence.
That was good.
Dude, I really loved when you started off with Josh solo. scout the place out.
Yep.
And then you go in, and then you're rewarded for your knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh man, incredible. And then I remembered right at the end of that too, right before we had to go deal with Gilbert again. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wait, there were 4 people in this room the last time. I was rewarded for remembering.
Yeah.
It was so good.
When did I write off Kurt?
Immediately.
I remember like because I know there are 2 instances in which he has like memory troubles, right? So obviously the well, I guess both times was because of Georg. But I remember that first time I was like, oh, like, you know, you have this giant lapse in memory. You are actually of no help to me right now. And then later on, when the rest of his group gets abducted and he comes back basically with nothing, he was just like, yeah, everybody got taken. I don't remember a thing. Like, thank you, Kevin, because if not for Kevin, who knows what would have happened, dude, right?
Shout outs to Kevin.
Yeah, I was like, oh, God. I mean, granted, I have my own, I would probably say fake beefs with Kevin, but that's for later.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to get too deep in the reads on too specific of characters, but I definitely needed to get to, okay, we both dislike Kurt. All right.
Kurt is, oh, God.
All right.
Can't stand him.
But, like, the fact that we feel so passionately about this does speak a lot to the writing in this game.
100%, yes.
Yeah. Like I'm mad at Cassius, but I don't hate him.
Yeah.
But that's because, like, he tries to be a good dad. Yeah, he tries when he's, you know, when it's convenient and he's in the country and, you know, he's, you know, able to, if he can do it, if he can annoy Estelle, he'll be a good dad.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, like if he's capable of annoying his daughter in any capacity, he'll do it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, that's super fair. What before we move on to the next section, what were your favorite parts of the story, the main story?
Oh, wow. Okay,
it's a good question.
This is going to be a pretty funny one, but I did enjoy the school play arc, actually.
Yes.
I liked every facet of the setup, from them like getting there and being like temporarily enrolled in as students, pretty much just for the sake of the play, and the bit of recital and the bonding with not just Chloe but also like the student council members and stuff too. I really like
Jill and Hans.
Leading up to the actual play itself and how that played out, and I loved that a lot. Even with Lawrence showing his face like at the very end as a spectator. Like down all the way down to that moment, I was like, this was a fantastic chapter. I loved that moment.
I love how it established Josh as literally the prettiest boy in the country.
Yeah.
And then they did it again with the maid too. Here, you want to know a fun thing? I don't know if you did this. When you go into Gransel Castle with Josh, if you go to the maid's quarters, the girl who helped with the costumes, the help to get him into disguise, is there, and she's like, "Josh, you're still beautiful," and then he just kind of goes like, okay.
Oh my god.
And that's the conversation. And I'm like, that's about what I expected.
It's perfect, actually.
It was so good.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, no, it's like my favorite bit of side character dialogue, I think, in the whole game.
That is so perfect, actually.
It's amazing. Actually, no. It's my second favorite. My favorite is there's a point where you get to meet the Jaegers, the dudes who were guarding the queen when you were in disguise. You get to meet them in second chapter for like a brief split second, and they're like, "Man, you're familiar."
You're right. I remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I do remember that.
I think my favorite story debate personally is, oh man. All right, I'm gonna cheat and use two. I'm gonna cheat and use two.
Yeah.
Alan Richards' redemption arc. When
Okay.
he basically 1v4s the enforcers.
Yeah.
That
was a good moment.
And actually, I want to talk about that a bit because the enforcers are really interesting as a concept, because the whole game you're basically told that they're comically overpowering.
Yes.
And you beat them in boss fights, but then like they basically are just like, yeah, whatever, that was fun, I guess. And they do that like they do that twice. And then, like, obviously, when you get to the towers, if you bring the correct character, you actually beat them. But if you don't bring the correct character, which I didn't do for Blue Blanc, I forgot to bring Olivier.
Same. I didn't bring Olivier.
I did bring Chloe because she's part of the squad, but I did not bring Olivier, and he just naffs off.
Yeah.
Like Walter. I didn't get to see this, but during my playthrough, but someone told me, is if you don't bring Zin to the Walter fight, he literally, like, a helicopter shows up and he drops the ladder and he just goes, ha ha, and flies off. Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't see that because I did bring Zin for that fight.
I brought Zin amazing. And I brought Shara. What did you think of the enforcers, actually, as like a plot device and as characters?
They're all really cool. I like the idea that they're, I guess, like, you know, they're working towards various common, like, I guess a common goal, right, with like whatever Ouroboros' like grand plan is, right? But I also like that they have their own agendas too, and they like prioritize those still over, I guess, what they were brought on for. You know, like I feel like there's a lot of potential there. Some of it I think at this point is still like untapped. But yeah, like I very much like that idea because it's obviously, if you're familiar, I guess, at all with like Naruto.
Yeah,
like
I'm a little familiar with Naruto.
Okay, cool. So it's very Akatsuki like, right, in that sense, where they're all brought under, but they all have their own thing, and they're all so unique to, like, just in moveset, in motives, in everything. Like, ordinarily, I feel like none of them would get along. You know, if not for their like, I guess, their common goal and cause, because it's like, I don't know, LeVay will say something about or around Campanella, and Campanella will be like, yo, dude, I literally don't care what you were doing out there, man. Like, just whatever, you did your job, cool. And they just go on about their day. But like, so ordinarily, like, I'm like, okay, they wouldn't get along because they're all so different, at least like fundamentally. But yeah, no, they're, and then as a plot device, I think they're very effective. But I think a big part of that lends to the fact that many of them, at least, are connected to the other characters we're more familiar with.
I think, I'm actually gonna put the fact that some of them are deeply connected to characters in the party as kind of like a hit against.
Yeah,
specifically like Walter and Lucy.
Yeah,
because Lucy, like, Lucy felt like an extension of Shara's character, and not her own character. Because everything Lucy was doing revolved in, like, her whole motivation revolved entirely around Shara's backstory, and same with Walter to a certain extent. Obviously, like, Kilika was brought in to that, but like Ren and Blue Blanc were in like contrast, completely separate characters, and Ren specifically, I think, got a lot of screen time and a lot of character development
100%.
in her fight and in her relevant chapter. Did you notice when she was with the party, where you pointed out her 10,000 HP? I saw that, and my initial thought was like, oh, so we don't accidentally kill a kid in a video game. But then I said out loud, I'm like, man, sure would be spooky if she was an enforcer, haha, JK, because I'm like, there's no way, she's like 11. No. Like, and then she just whips out this giant scythe in the middle of a cutscene. I'm like, I
am something of a skeptic, because I at the moment that you were let on, because I was in your stream when you learned of her HP.
Hmm.
So I didn't know at that time myself in the game that she had such monstrous HP at the
Hmm.
time, but I was suspicious because of what happens once you basically like you're getting her back to town and you come across what's the butler's name? Um
Oh God, I feel so stupid. Hold
you,
on,
I know, right?
I have the list literally right here. Philip.
There we go. Yeah, when you come across Philip and he's going back to the villa, and she makes an observation about him. She was like, oh, like that old man seems like he's like a little bit more than he appears to be or whatever. And I was
Hmm.
like, very astute observation from a child. I'm suspicious of you. Like
Oh,
frame one.
I didn't even think about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the second she made that observation, I was like, you are a child. Like,
Oh
why are
my
you how are you assessing people like
God.
this? Yeah.
I just
Um,
like I could tell that like she was obviously like at bare minimum like precocious or like
yeah.
at best like obviously she's a genius, but
Yes.
like I'm like all right she's smart so she made a lot of smart observations and she had a
Yeah.
lot of like mature conversations with the
Yes.
characters, but like
Yes.
that didn't like translate immediately to like suspicion. It was the
Right.
10,000 HP. I'm like,
Yeah, that was like
and then even then I wasn't really like suspicious. I was just
right.
for the laughs
Yeah,
playing it.
yeah,
I was
right.
like playing it up for the comedy because I consider do. All right, brief aside on streaming video games.
Yeah.
I don't know how you view streaming
Mhm.
specifically, but I'd love to hear that. But like, I view it as kind of a performance
Yeah. Yeah.
where like obviously I'm playing a character of myself, but
Yes.
the obvious like reason I'm streaming is to entertain people and me. I would like
Yeah.
to be entertained as well.
Yeah.
And so like obviously like I'll play into jokes, I'll play into laughs, but like
Yes.
how do you feel in that like respect? Like what do you think like the purpose of streaming a game as opposed to playing it by yourself is?
Um, very similarly, yeah. Like it is overall performance, and for myself and others too, I do what I can to make it an experience as well.
Hmm.
So I knew going into this franchise, like, okay, listen, like 100%, this is me being selfish. I want to play this pretty much purely for myself.
Hmm.
Um, but then I turn around and I turn that into a performance slash experience by being like, okay, well, hey, you know what? I would love to bring you in with me. So like, if
Hmm.
I've got to lean in more into certain kinds of jokes, like throughout the entirety of third chapter and even some of second chapter, like Kevin has been the butt of many jokes. Um, literally, I call him the villain of the third game.
I mean,
Um,
he's the main character for
he
three.
he
I
is.
only know this because I the one time I rated in, I saw Kevin. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
cool, Kevin, and then he's on the
yeah,
box. He's on the box art. I say box art
right.
as though video games have
Yeah.
boxes anymore on Steam.
Right. Yes, he's on. Yeah, he's on like the cover art for the game. Yep, he is
This game
the
has box
main.
art. There's
True.
lots of characters on. It's got a box. I like I like physical games.
Yeah, yeah, but I very much am in agreement. Yeah, it is a performance. It is an
Hmm.
experience. And I love that I've been able to, yeah, like pull so many people into this with me, because there's so many people that are like, okay, JRPGs are long, they can be boring, dialogue
Hmm.
heavy, etc. So the fact that both of us actually, I believe, I've been able to like hook so many people and kind of like bring
Yeah,
them along with us.
yeah.
I love that part of making it an
I
experience, and I try to do that with every
yes.
game I play. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that I'm able to share these stories and then
Yeah.
like make a bit of a story as well
Yeah.
with people. I
Yeah.
like we basically had, like we have like right now I have the whole meme of Chloe screaming at palms.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
which I think is hilarious. But
Yeah,
like
it's great.
it's a mechanic in the game that we are able to make stories about, and I think that's the really cool thing about streaming is that we're able to make these stories
Yes.
with people, and that's really cool. All right, that's enough of that aside. I want to talk about my other favorite, and this is actually my favorite
Yeah.
moment in either game is Estelle's dream.
Oh, yes. Oh my God.
Um,
Yes.
the moment I'm like getting choked up thinking about this moment when she's trying to play the harmonica.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Oh my God, like the stumbling across the first few notes and then doing it again and getting closer, and then like that third time she almost has it, and like I'm like I at that point I had tears running down my face. I have tears building up right now thinking about it. And then she's got like, and then when she gets it right, she turns into her normal, and then her mom talks to her.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know I'm not your real mom, but like I still feel like it. And you know, she was proud of her, and I'm like,
yeah. That was
take a
that
moment,
was a beautiful
man.
moment.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
We could take a second. No, that hit me really hard. Like that hit me, like that was probably the hardest I think I've ever been hit by a video game. Like in that one spot. And that's the thing about this game. Like this game is so good at making you feel like an emotional connection through the writing and through like you're with them on this journey.
Yes.
And Estelle, like we'll get into this more when we do individual characters on the tier list, but like Estelle's like the best pro tag in basically any game I've ever played.
Yeah, the absolute best.
She's the absolute GOAT.
Yeah.
Cannot be assailed. Like like I can't even think of who would be in second place right now, but they would be like Estelle's like way up here and they're like 20 floors subterranean.
Literally.
Not even close.
I'm in agreement.
She's the best.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other story beats that I want to talk about, because I think I would go ahead.
What are your thoughts on the for what there is of them anyway, the Kapua family?
Oh my god, I love them. I think I've been pronouncing it Kapua.
Yeah. Okay, me too. Cool.
Yeah. I love them to death. Yeah. I really hope they're in third. I like they're just so fun.
Yeah.
Like they start out as like this Team Rocket thing.
Yep.
And they do like a side grade into like a second adventuring party doing
pretty
stuff
much.
Like because like Josh spends the first half of the game just hanging out with them and like having their own little adventures. And like
they are cool.
I was a big fan. Did you do when you did this little side mission with rescuing the Bobcat with Josh? Were you able to keep Josette alive through the boss fight?
I was
not. I ended up having to 1v1 Muller. I beat him, which made me happy. But like, Josette was not getting back up off the ground. I was like, I do not have time to deal with you.
Yeah.
I have so much to do.
Yeah.
Oh man, that reminds me. I was really curious because you pick up a lot of chests.
Yes.
When you're in there. When did those items get back to you? Or do they ever?
Do they ever know that they do?
I don't know that they do either, because I know Josh has like a second segment.
Like outing,
Yeah, he has like a second outing, and he's comically over-leveled for both of them.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
you just left home. How did you get 20 levels above the rest of us?
Right?
Yeah.
But like, no way. And so he like, I think you kept the items between those two, but I don't know if they ever made their way into the main inventory. But even if they did, they'd be like outclassed by that point anyway.
100%. I don't know that they do either, to be honest. I would hope that they would. I feel like obviously like logistically it makes sense, but I'm just like, would they have thought of that?
I have full faith that they would have.
Yeah.
Like with the amount of details that they put into the rest of everything else, I'm willing to give them that.
Yeah, 100%.
I would say though, like the main story, like I said, like this game deals like kind of in conclusion, like this game deals with scope on an insane level.
Yeah.
And I know you said you haven't played Xenoblade 1,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that game also is very good at conveying scale. Not
Okay.
in story, but
Right.
in size. Because I don't know how if you know anything about it, but the game takes
I know
place
what to do.
on like the two big titans, Mechonis and
Yes.
Bionis. And
Yes.
the definitive edition definitely does this. I don't know if the original one did. You feel the size of these things
Yeah.
while you're like working your way up the Bionis in the first
Yeah.
half of the game. Like you see the Mechonis and you like can look down and see areas that you came from
Oh,
like
that's
so
so
far
cool.
beneath you. And like that game conveys size and scale very well, physical scale, but
Yeah.
this game has political scale, I guess.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Jumping back again, like to the showdown with General Vander outside the Hacken
Hmm.
Gate and that
Hmm.
negotiation.
Yeah.
Like you realize that the story, like you realize that you have one chapter left. You're only dealing with like 5 members of Ouroboros of at least 17 to 20.
Yeah.
You have no lead at all on the Grandmaster. The last thing Campanella like interacts with, like he basically finishes off George Wise Guy
Yeah.
and, you know, takes his stone. And then he had even Georg, like one of his last lines is like, "Oh, this is the Pillar of Salt from some random
Yeah.
country,"
When
and I'm like,
Kevin's
"What
shooting.
are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?" And it's like throwaway lines are implying such a massive scale of events,
Yep.
and I can't wait to see where it goes.
I gotta ask, have you seen a map of Zemuria, like this giant, like the giant, I guess,
I
chunk of
haven't
land that everybody's on?
seen I haven't seen anything outside of the map of Liberal in
Okay.
the first
And
game.
within the okay.
Within the
Okay.
game, I haven't seen like the big
Right.
map.
Okay. Okay. I might have to like show you that later because
Hmm.
to to think that like what all of what's going on, I guess, like all of the stuff
Hmm.
in the world.
I know
Um
Liberal's really small compared to like the
yeah.
rest of the world, and like
Yeah.
it feels small as
Yes.
well. Like that's the thing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
stuff isn't measured in like kilometers or
Of
anything
course.
like
Yeah,
that.
no.
It's measured
And
in
we got ARG.
100. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
like an arg is like 100 meters.
Yeah.
Like, but like even then, like you're dealing with a scale like the entirety of Liberal can fit inside like New York City.
Yeah,
Like
probably.
like you
Yeah.
can do a lap. You could do a lap of Liberal in 40 minutes,
Yeah. Pretty
like
much.
tops,
Yeah.
you know? And obviously like in game, well, okay, like I think they even kind of acknowledge this in game. It's not that places are far apart, it's that monsters are dangerous.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, and that's why travel is basically only through airships cuz only insane people travel the roads. Um
Yeah.
and that's kind of yeah, and so like when I'm going to be getting into then after I finish third, the next game I'm going to play is Zero
Yep,
when it
same.
comes out.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't wait for that to come
I
out. It's gonna
can't
be
wait
so
either.
exciting.
Oh,
Dude, it's good. It's so exciting.
it's gonna be so good.
Have you heard any music from it at all?
No, actually.
It has
Well, besides what they put in the trailers, I guess.
Oh yeah. It
Yeah.
has probably my favorite battle theme out of the games that I've heard so far. And
Okay.
that's a high bar and it segues perfectly into the music section.
Let's go.
Um the music in this game is okay, let's start off by saying the music in this game is like amazing.
Phenomenal.
It's like one of the
Yeah.
best soundtracks. Someone said in my chat once that Falcom is a music company that makes JRPGs as adverts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
Yep.
And that's like I could believe that.
100%. I buy that too.
What would be all right? Let's start off. Like, what's your favorite? Probably What's your favorite track, I'd say, in the game?
Ooh, um, I've gotten, for obvious reasons, I've
Mhm.
gotten very much attached to that one song. I'm forgetting the name, to be honest. But it's the one played on harmonica,
The Whereabouts
because
of Light.
the Whereabouts of Light. There we go.
Yup.
Yo, the Whereabouts of Light, it hits so different. Like
Dude.
the context obviously helps, but I thought it was
Mhm.
beautiful from the first time I heard it. I was like, that's a really nice sound.
The first time Josh played it on the harmonica, and
Hmm.
I recognized it as the title theme as well.
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
oh man, that's really nice. And then, second chapter, rude as hell, decides
Yeah.
to open. It's not even
With
like the opening. It's like the stupid like
The
logo
the title
pops up,
screen.
and then
Yeah.
it's like, I'm like,
Yep.
why?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually like I hum that song a lot at home, and it's how I relax my cats.
Oh, nice.
It's how
That's
I
cute.
relax my cats. Even my
Yeah.
wife like knows the song now. I've heard her humming it, and she's never listened to. She doesn't watch my stream. She doesn't like
Yeah.
listen to this game. But I've been
Yeah.
humming it enough that she's picked up the tune,
That is so good.
which is wild.
I like that a lot.
Whereabouts of Light's probably like the best, like the most resonant track.
It's so good.
Um, like what when you played the first game and you got into your first combat and that like that jazz
I was
kicked
about to
in.
say, Sophisticated Fight.
Sophisticated
It's so
Fight.
good. It's
Oh
so
my
good.
God.
I was almost sad to like not have it during second chapter.
I
You
know,
know, like,
right?
yeah, like second
I
chapter's music was still good, like for the combat, but
Mhm.
yeah, no, Sophisticated Fight. Oh,
I'm almost like what I would have loved would be if it came back once.
yeah.
Like, could you imagine the absolute state if it was the final boss theme?
Oh,
Like,
oh.
yeah, like how, like maybe not the final boss, because
Of
obviously the
course.
final boss is a remix of
Yes.
Whereabouts of Light, which
Yes.
is insane.
Yeah.
With you had the whole angelic choir and all your
Mhm.
standard JRPG final boss
Of
things.
course.
But like, I would have loved if maybe not just somewhere after we got Josh back in the party, we got to hear that song one more time. I think that
I
would have been
agree.
very like that would have hit. That would have hit different.
I agree. Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and I didn't get to talk about this. How the heck do you pronounce the MacGuffin in second chapter? The Ariel.
oh, I would say Oriole, but I feel like that's super wrong.
I pronounce it Oreo because it's the best visual gag I've ever made.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I mean, it
Actually,
basically
no.
sounds like that. At least in
It's
my head.
this. It's this, yeah, because I was like, I have no idea how I'm supposed to pronounce this, and I don't want
Yeah.
to pronounce it areola, for reasons that should be very obvious.
Yeah.
YouTube, don't demonetize me. Haha, I don't have monetization. Haha,
Gotcha.
I've double rused you. No, sophisticated fights like my favorite combat theme. In either game.
Yeah.
The second chapters definitely grew on me. But like it's really funny because like the combat in those games, the combat music in those games is so upbeat
Yeah.
compared to how so many other games are like dun 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 dun. And if you're in like crisis, because like there is like a crisis music if you're like
Yep.
parties
Like
gotten
going
the
out.
crap knocked out of them that I've only heard. Like I didn't hear that a ton
Yeah.
because I
mostly only
usually
you're
go ahead.
you're good. Yeah, I was gonna say I only mostly heard it at like the beginning of the first chapter, like
Mm-hmm.
because I remember for like a good bit of the beginning, like monsters were absolutely destroying me.
Mm-hmm.
Until I got like my first maybe 2 or 3 levels, and I was like, okay, we finally have like some insurance now. If I do get hit, like I'm not gonna get wiped in a turn.
I feel like the combat in this game definitely gets at least normal combat in the game gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like bosses, like pretty much the difficulty curve stays pretty consistent for the bosses, but I'd say like
Yeah.
normal combat definitely got easier
Yeah.
once you have like options.
Yes.
when you're first starting out and you don't have options, you don't have crafts, you don't have anything, the game is hard as hell.
Yeah.
But going through, once you get to like chapter 2 and you have a full party finally, anytime I had less than 4 party members was miserable.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I guess we don't really have a ton to say about the music.
Yeah.
But the music's amazing.
It is.
But like, and there's a couple tracks, we did mention those couple tracks that are like, because like that, the Whereabouts of Light, like that leitmotif just hits so hard every time it's used.
Yeah.
Oh, what was your thoughts on the Enforcer's theme? Where, because it starts out really quiet and then the guitar goes down, and every time it did that, I giggled because it's almost always inappropriately timed.
Every time. Mm-hmm. I did, like, overall, of course, I liked it, but in a way, like, it kind of felt a little unfitting for most of them, probably, if not all of them.
Yeah, it's like Ren's on the field, and then she's like doing whatever she's doing, and then what? I would have much rather they all have individual themes, which I know is way more work. But like Love had his own theme, like the Hamill themes.
It's funny. I actually wanted to bring that up because I believe that song, or at least during his fight, I think that song is called "Silver Will."
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that it came back, I guess, in a gameplay setting, I guess, because I know that theme to be the usual sort of like triumphant theme, because it's I think it's a remix, right? Like his battle theme. And then also, I guess it was like in some of the like trailers or openings, I think, for the game as well, something like that. I know it's used elsewhere.
It was definitely in a trailer, and it's used in several cutscenes. Yeah, because the pro tags get to borrow his theme because they do cool stuff, and they're like, "Well, we need the best music," and he had the best theme music.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So to see that get its own sort of like I guess evil or sinister or whatever other word you might use, sort of like remix for that fight, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
In a weird way, at the same time, though, I do wish it was used somewhere else in the game. It still works for him for that fight in that moment, but considering everything that else like kind of comes afterwards, I feel like maybe it would have been appropriate to use it somewhere else.
That's fair. Yeah. That's super reasonable. I think, and I don't remember the name of the track. Mm-hmm. There's another track that plays, I think, specifically when villains are doing I think Georg Weissman used it the most.
Okay.
And he plays it on the organ, and then it changes. The second he plays it on the organ, it changes, and it has this like extra reverb, and I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh God, you just made the good song bombastic, but I hated that. But it's like, why would you do that? Also, Georg Weissman playing the organ. Was I the only one who was like, man, this guy played Ocarina of Time, clearly, and he's just like, man, Ganondorf's cool.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who looked at that and was like, I'm getting real Ganondorf Ocarina of Time vibes from this.
Yep.
Oh, what a meme! What a dude!
Yeah, that guy is so.
Oh, but yeah, like I think a lot of the game had a very good use of leitmotifs. And that's something I really, really appreciate. Because the other games that I've been playing recently, the Xenoblade games, don't use leitmotifs very often. Yeah. There's one song, and it's the best non-combat song on the whole track for both games, that has a leitmotif that's used across the games, and it's when like the really cool stuff's going on. It's called Counterattack. In Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Engage the Enemy in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and it's in all the best cutscenes. Like all the best cutscenes have these tracks. Yeah, so
this song.
It's a good song, man.
It's a good song.
Yeah, that's the one leitmotif that's carried between the two games, and that's the best one. And I can't wait to hear it in 3. It better be in 3. It's the best song.
It is a phenomenal track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But. Anything else we want to talk about music?
No, not particularly.
All
You
right.
got the general idea
I
though,
think
yeah.
yeah. The music I didn't have a ton to say about, but like
Mhm.
other than there's like a few tracks, they're all really really good. They do
Yeah,
produce really well. All
yeah.
right. Before we get into the tier list, is there any like kind of closing overall thoughts you had on this game?
Oh, wow. I
I know, right?
I it's it's just it is, and I know we've kind of like we've talked like this already a couple of times now, but
Hmm.
it is so incredible to me that like one person, I guess, had an idea and it's just ballooned into such a very like it's impressive to me that the scale is so huge, right? Because
Hmm.
there's so much you have yet to see, of course. Um, and there's only so much of it that we have seen as of now, and like it it's impressive to me that he's already or I think it's a he, but they've already set so many ties in to so many other places in this world that they've created,
Hmm.
and it's like, are you like how like how I keep wondering what their planning process was. I was like, did you like come up with all of this first and establish stories and then make them connect, or are you sort of just doing this as you go? I'm very curious because the setup for so many things, for so many characters, and just how one person's actions, thoughts, etc., can influence like some of the furthest reaches. Like
Yeah.
it's so impressive to me. Like I just as in first chapter with Josh and Estelle being primarily, anyways, kind of like side characters in this grand scheme, and seeing how just them going around learning about the region and training to become senior bracers turns into like, hey, now we have some kind of say, at least with people who are from other parts of this world, and then
Yeah.
that translates into interactions that those characters will have when we get more spotlight on them.
Hmm.
It's so it's just really cool to me. And if you haven't picked up or you've like, yeah, if you haven't picked up the series yet and you're sitting on the fence about it, or you're just hearing about it for the first time, please invest. Please, I'm begging you. It is so good. It is like, honestly,
Hmm.
I mean, maybe we'll see how my thoughts are by the time I maybe get into other JRPGs and I guess sort of wrap up what there is now of the Legend of Heroes. But
Hmm.
I think it is in standing for being like the best JRPG franchise ever. And there are obviously phenomenal ones out
Oh
there.
yeah.
I think it is like it is absolutely in contention for being like the best ever for JRPG franchises.
I'm in a very similar boat. I feel like my my stance on this is basically at this point like I've only played 2 of the 12 available games,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of in that same exact boat. Like I have no idea how I've never heard of the series before this
Yeah.
year. Like
Right.
I'm like, how have more people not played this?
Right. Exactly.
Like I think part of it is that the localization was kind of like I'm not gonna say like the localization itself, but like I feel like
Yeah.
when they brought it over, it wasn't hyped
Yeah.
at all, because
Yeah.
like a lot of times they're kind of a lot of times I find that the video game companies, if it's not a Final Fantasy, it's not going to sell.
Right.
Yeah, like obviously, or
Yeah.
however it is they talk, and they these games blow anything I've ever seen in any Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest,
Yeah.
like out of the water. Like, and
Yeah.
I like,
Absolutely.
I don't dislike Final Fantasy games except for 7,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like that this is just on a different scale of world building and character writing that
Yeah.
I've never seen even close to attempted in any other series that I've played, and it's blowing my mind that I'm just at this point in my life even
Yeah.
hearing about this.
Yeah.
Like, I know this series isn't that old. Like, I think
No.
it's like 2004 is the
Somewhere
first
around there,
game.
maybe slightly
And
before.
like we
Yeah.
didn't get them over here until like the 2010s.
Yeah.
But like even then, like I was still actively like playing video games. I was buying
Yeah.
JRPGs. Like
Yeah.
where was this discussion? Like, yeah, like if you're not like, hi viewer, what's up?
Hey.
How you doing? If you have not somehow, if you're somehow 2 hours deep into this podcast and you have not played these games, please, it's $20 on Steam.
Literally,
like it's $20 and it's easily the best like value like for those that price I've ever seen.
it is a steal.
It's insane. Like I've laughed, I've cried, I've made terrible jokes about meatballs. Like it's great.
Yeah,
It's
it is so good.
Just play the damn games.
Yeah, please.
Oh my god. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up this portion, and then we're gonna do our tier list.
Let's go.
I think that sounds like a great deal.